Awesome. So like I said, we're going to start with just some SNAC updates. We'll go through the dialogue sessions that we talked about, that we did last year, the interest survey results. We'll talk about our 2023 webinar series, our student networking event, and then the SNAC website and social media efforts. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm sure many of you were a part of our SNAC dialogue sessions last year. For those who didn't know about this or what we did, we held 12 sessions last year that we called dialogue sessions, and the goal was really to just bring professionals from around the state to understand just successes, maybe some opportunities for growth, and areas just to understand what we might be going through at the local level, at the state level, around a wide variety of topics. So we had presentations and topics such as health equity and food pantries. We talked about academics and how they relate to communities. We had a great one at the end of December about nutrition incentive programming. So just a wide variety of topics that we did. We had a total of 263 attendees, and then unique attendees, 130 people joined us. So it was really great. Our most attended session was the structural racism in the built environment with our folks from Health by Design and David Up, who works with Gary Transportation. So we sent out a summary of everything that we talked about. We created story maps to really understand what themes were there, and then we compiled the themes to talk about what are common visions, what are common strengths, what are areas for growth, and then things that we wanted to work on for the next year. So thank you to everyone who's on the call who did present last year, were part of those sessions. It was really exciting. So if you want to go to the next slide, Amy, we have an example of what a story map looked like. We got together, and the structure of the sessions where we started out with somebody coming in and doing a grounding presentation. So just letting us know what we could expect when we went into small groups to discuss these 4 questions of what, in a perfect world, what would it look like, and then building up to changes that could be made. So if you're interested in receiving any of the recap emails that we sent out for specific topics or the final report, please let me know. We sent that out at the very beginning of the year, and we're happy to share that information with everyone. All right, go to the next slide, please. And at the end of last year, as you all are familiar, we had our annual survey go out to just ask about your interest around SNAC and different topics, and then also to understand representation within the group. So it was a really great response rate of 30%. That's the highest that we've had in the last 3 years. So thank you for everyone who took that survey. And would you go to the next slide, please? Just some initial findings I'll share briefly. We've tracked representation based on race and age, and you can read more about, we saw some slight increases in certain age groups and demographic areas. And then the sector representation stayed pretty strong with colleges, universities, nonprofits, and government agencies being with us in this group. So we're excited that there was also showed a greater representation from Southern Indiana for those who participated in the survey. Next slide, please. And then we asked about areas of interest in communication. We really wanted to know how this group could best serve you in your professional capacity. So we found that webinars were of interest, and some of the top interests in terms of topics were the food systems development, health equity, and food as medicine. So we are going to continue in this next year to offer what you have asked for. In this year, we're going to do a webinar series. So we'll all talk about the specific topics that we came to in a moment, but we're going to continue with that. We're going to continue doing our monthly newsletter, which will come out in the next few days for February. And we are going to continue to post on social media and get engagement that way. And then one thing we love to do is our student networking session. So we have our next one on February 22nd, which we'll talk about. But those are kind of what we found over the last year, and the information that was pulled from this survey and from the dialogue sessions are going to really help us to create a strategic direction for SNAC. We're working with an evaluator right now to figure out what that might be as we really grow the SNAP Ed program and SNAC here in Indiana. So thank you everyone for your participation in all of that. The information is going to be really helpful to best know how we can serve you in the future. All right, next slide, please. This is going to be our SNAC webinar series for this year. We are currently reaching out to speakers, so we don't have any dates and times in the next few months set yet, but we are working very hard to get that into place, and we will send out some Eventbrites to register for that as soon as those are available to the entire SNAC listserv. So all of these topics were determined based on the survey and what we found within the dialogue sessions. So we hope that they can be helpful, and if you have any speakers or any ideas as you look through this list, and I'll send it out afterwards as well, please let me know, and we're happy to get with you and figure out speakers. I know I have reached out to a few of you already, so thank you for those who have helped me so far. All right, next slide, please. SNAC website and social media. So we are continuing on with our efforts here. We have our SNAC website that we update frequently with all of the things that are shared in our newsletter. And if you have any events that you would want to share, we have an area for you to submit those events, and it populates in the events for partners tab that you can see on the screen. We put all of our newsletters there. We put all of our grants and jobs. Any sort of highlight is there. So if there's an in-between season where we're maybe not sending newsletters or don't have a quarterly meeting, the website is where you would find all of that information. And we are on social media. So if your organization has a social media handle, feel free to put that in the chat so we can follow one another. We can promote anything that we are doing, and I'd love to interact that way with you all. So that's definitely something we're going to be continuing on in this next year. And if you go to the next slide, please. We have our student networking event coming up soon. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. I just realized now that all of these wonderful women are registered dietitians, so it'll be a fun webinar of what you can do with community nutrition with an RD. So we have Hannah Kelly, Elise Gahan, and Sarah Wilson coming to share, and we have Eventbrite's all ready to go with students, so I'm going to drop it here in the chat, and it'll go out with the recap email as well. If you know of any students who are interested in this space, please send this along to them. They can register, and it'll just be an event via Teams, and we're just going to go through, and it'll be a panel style where we will ask the speakers to speak more about their educational background and experiences to really just continue to share the wonderful work that you all are doing with our students. So I'll send out a flyer in the post email as well. All right. Next slide, please. Are there any questions so far of anything I've talked about? All right, so we're going to move into partner updates now. There are just a couple of updates that we have. I will pause. I don't know if Lauren is on the call and would want to say anything about the Black Loan Conference that is coming up in March. All right, well, the save the date for the Black Loan Conference is out, the March 24th and 25th. It's going to be taking place in Bloomington. So this is going to be, it's run by the People's Cooperative Market down in Bloomington, and they are going to be breaking down barriers to information and providing support, talking about building relationships and how you all can access resources and trainings for historically underserved Black, Indigenous, and people of color, farmers, producers, ranchers, and growers. So that's going to be a great conference. It's their second annual conference down in Bloomington. More information about that is going to be posted on our SNAC website, so you can go to the events tab and see when they would have registrations or any specific agendas and keynotes and everything like that. So keep your eye on that. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and email Lauren. And we have our SNAP-Ed grant opportunity that is available until February 10th. So you all might have hopped on that informational session a couple of weeks ago, but essentially this grant is available to help promote the cause of SNAP-Ed here in Indiana. So we're looking for proposals that are outlined within the RFP, and then it's outlined really well in this informational session for what we're looking for, and we're happy to assist with anyone who has questions. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. So those are the partner updates that I have. Does anyone else on the call have anything that they would like to share about their organization, whether that be an event or anything that would be relevant for this group?
Hello, this is Calvin Roberson with the IU Simon Comprehensive Cancer. I just want to highlight we're partnering with Martin University to co-host a public health summit in their Gatheratorium on February 24th. It's going to go between 9 a.m. and I believe 2 p.m. Will be the workshop session, and then there's going to be a community fair right there at 2 o'clock to about 4 o'clock. We have quite a few of our cancer researchers and physicians who's going to be presenting on colorectal cancer, lung cancer, as well as breast cancer. And then there's going to be a survivorship panel. And so if you know anyone that might be of interest, please have them come out. They're also looking for vendors. So if there's information that you want to give out to their student body, faculty, and they're just the community at large, they have spots open. That's for free for those who may want to market their programs and services. Thank you so much, and that concludes my announcement.
Thanks, Calvin. Does anyone else have any sort of announcement or update for us? All right, we will move right along then. I think there's the next slide and the slide after. All right, we will move on to our presentation from Legita Wilson. Legita, if you are on the call, do you have slides that you would like to share?
I am here and I do not have slides.
No worries, go right ahead.
Okay, for what I affectionately refer to as Big WIC, meaning the gigantic WIC retail program, we still have waivers in place. So we still have flexibility for some non-certification appointments to be completed remotely. Our clients really like that. Enhanced CVB, meaning cash value benefits for produce, have been extended through September 30th of 2023. We do not yet have a formal WIC modernization project through FNS at this time. We are working on digitizing all of the educational and outreach materials in the clinics and exploring automation of MIS testing. There is currently only one MIS EBT staff member, so we're very limited to what we can do with regard to testing right now. Some long-term goals that we have for WIC include exploring online shopping, online referrals, digital signatures, and enhancements to our mobile app. For commodities programs, TFAP Reach and Resiliency Round 2 proposals were submitted. The deadline was yesterday. The evaluation team will review and make decisions February 6th as to which projects will be funded. Food Bank and Feeding America executives are currently over at the State House today advocating for those we serve. CSFP, we were allowed to maintain our caseload under a Stafford Act waiver so that we didn't lose any caseload for this year. That will not be an option in 2024. So we need to get our caseload into the 96 to 101% utilization range this year in order to maintain caseload and be eligible to request expansion. My most exciting news has to do with a project that has been ongoing for the last 2.5 years. We are moving to electronic benefit issuance for both WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program and Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. The anticipated date for rollout is June of 2023. Some enhancements to be made based on an SFMNP ARPA grant that we were just awarded include increasing the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program benefit to the maximum $50 per individual, serving an additional 2,500 seniors per year at that maximum benefit, producing outreach materials in various formats, including print, digital, PSAs, and social media campaigns. 3 service area expansion grants to senior local agencies in very rural and currently underserved areas, and the engagement of several options for local support to those senior local agencies. We anticipate additional projects aligned with WIC FMNP, with the WIC FMNP Benefit Delivery Modernization Grant, but we have not received a determination as yet on that one. The last program that we're currently working on is the LFPA Track 1 project. We have regular meetings with the co-op members and the logistics team. We are beginning to affect the MOAs with the vendors, and we expect purchasing to begin very soon. Those are all of WIC's updates.
Thanks, Legita. We have one question in the chat from Elise. She asked, what is MIS?
Management Information Systems. That would be for us in WIC. And I could further explain. There is an online platform that all of the local agencies and state staff use to manage the programs, and there is a mobile app that participants use to they can access nutrition education through the mobile app, and manage all of their benefits as well. And their benefits are associated with a card. WIC and Senior eFMNP will not be card-based, will not be connected to the WIC MIS system for a number of very valid reasons. It is a mobile wallet-based program. Any other questions?
Feel free to come off mute or put any questions in the chat for Legita about WIC's updates.
Hi, this is Elise Gahan. I got another question, if that's okay. I would love, will WIC farmers market nutrition benefits, those will for sure be electronic this year, it sounds like?
Yes. I began work on this project in April of 2020. Late last year, we selected a vendor, and our project team is in the process of configuring the online system. The vendor is creating all of the outreach materials. We'll be onboarding vendors. We'll be onboarding state staff. We'll be training all of the local agencies, and providing all of the materials that the locals need to issue their benefits through the online portal. Each participant who has a smartphone will have a mobile wallet app on their smartphone to accommodate especially seniors who tend to not have smart devices. We can email them a QR code. We can print them a QR code that they can take to the farmers market vendor to use their benefits. The vendor will also have a mobile register app that they use to accept the benefits. Oh, and one thing that you may enjoy being aware of is the particular solution that we selected will also support, outside of our efforts, redemption of SNAP credit, debit, and incentive programs. So it's a lot more bang for the vendor buck. Additionally, the state agency will pay the vendor fee for the months of FMNP active program participation, meaning June through October of each year. If they choose to redeem SNAP through that application, That is outside of our purview, but there is no cost to the vendor for SNAP redemptions.
Thanks, Lajita. We have a couple more questions in the chat. Becky asks, what would the WIC modernization grant be able to do?
It is targeted at modernizing WIC FMNP. So it will provide additional funding for various projects that we want to do associated with the rollout and implementation of WIC EFMNP.
Will there be, I'm more familiar, I am pretty familiar with this system. And so with the vendors, is it correct that they would each need to submit their own application for an FNS number to be able to accept the FNMP through this new way?
Yes, but that's not the first step. They have to be authorized by the state agency as an FMNP, an approved FMNP vendor. Then they will communicate with the product vendor, who has a team of staff to help walk them through that process of becoming authorized by FNS.
And Naeem asks, so is the mobile wallet only for the SFNMP benefits? Is it replacing the paper checks?
It is replacing paper checks for both WIC FMNP and senior FMNP. We are going to an electronic benefit delivery system. For some backstories, in case you weren't aware, the two entities that provided check processing and banking services to the FMNPs exited that space as of December 2021. We scrambled and were lucky to find a bank out of Missouri that is very philanthropic, who provided base services for us last year, but we don't want to continue that particular effort.
Are there any other questions for Lajita while we have her? Is the mobile wallet only accessible through smartphones? Are there options available for clients without smartphones?
The mobile wallet is only available on Android and iPhone. The options for those clients without smartphones are that we can email them a QR code that they can print themselves, or the local agency can print a QR code, hand it to the client, or mail it to the client. Mindy asks, how will vendors get connected to this program? Right now, the project manager is creating outreach materials for our current approved vendors. I've provided them with that list. For currently unapproved vendors or those renewing this year, will include materials in their renewal packet explaining to them what is happening, that they still need to renew their application if they want to continue, and we will connect them with the vendor who will walk them through the entire process of getting them onto the EFMNP system.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lajita. All right. Any other last questions before we move on? All right. Thank you, Lajita, for your time and for updating all of us. And if anyone has any questions, I assume Lajita would be able to answer them via email.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Great.
allowing me to present.
Yes. Thanks, Lajita. All right, we will move on to our state level grant opportunities. We're going to have Gretchen Huntzer from the Indiana Department of Education share. Gretchen, do you have slides that you would like to share?
I do. Is it okay if I just share my screen?
Yep, go for it.
All right. Before I get started, just very quickly, we are I'm part of the training and resource development team. We are looking for presenters in March to present just on any child nutrition topic. If anybody is interested in presenting to school nutrition professionals about anything lowering sodium, reducing sugar, anything like that in diets and why it's important, it can be as short as 30 minutes. Our school nutrition professionals are required to have professional development training throughout the year. So I'm just going to plug that really fast. We are a 5-person team on the training team, and 2 of our employees are out on maternity leave through the end of March. And so we've thrown a few trainings together for February, but if we can outsource that in March, we would be ever so grateful. If anybody is interested, any topic, child nutrition, anything you feel it's important for school nutrition professionals to kind of know, I'm going to put my email address in the chat box. You can chat me here or you can shoot me an email as well. But I will be just kind of heading up that March professional development. So we would definitely appreciate anyone who's interested in presenting on any sort of nutrition topic for our school nutrition professionals. So I am here to talk about the grants and opportunities that we have with the Indiana Department of Education. And then we have 3 different grants that we have received and how those will be dispersed to our school nutrition programs and childhood programs. So the first is our 2022 Farm to School grant. Here we go. The grant's aim is to increase access to local foods and child nutrition programs with an emphasis on increasing procurement, education, and the serving of local proteins. This grant is funded by the USDA Food and Nutrition Services, or FNS. The total amount we received was $80,865. The funding timeline is from July 18th of 22 through June 30th of 2024. So we do have a couple of years to spend those grant funds. The grant was written to provide subgrants to Indiana schools and child care centers to support the increase of the service of local proteins. Schools and child care centers can choose to use subgrant funds on specific equipment that would help with the preparation of proteins, such as chef knives, cutting boards, and thermometers. Schools can also apply with original project proposals for farm to school activities, which would then increase the local proteins in their child nutrition programs. No experience with farm to school is necessary, and we do encourage those who are new to the farm to school program to apply. Excuse me. Applications for those subgrants are open through Friday, February 17th. So we are currently accepting those subgrant applications. We have partnered with the Indiana Farm Bureau to help distribute those subgrant funds. We do have several webinars on procuring and using local protein throughout the year. The first, which is procuring local proteins in child nutrition programs, will be held on Thursday, February the 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We've partnered with Kathy Powers, and so Kathy Powers and Chef Samantha Gasbarrow will be leading this session. We have our Farm to School Grant Coordinator, Hannah Cahalan, and her email address is here on this slide. I am just the messenger on these. I do not know a lot. You're welcome to ask questions, but there is a contact for each of the grants. So I would definitely recommend emailing those. So Amanda Cahalan is our Farm to School Grant Coordinator. The next grant we have is our 2022 Team Nutrition Grant. The image on this screen is a map of all the states who were awarded this round of the Team Nutrition grant funding. The intent of the grant is to provide professional development in hopes of encouraging professional readiness and retention. Indiana will be building training modules that capture learners' attention with immersive experiences and interactive courses. Select training will also be offered in Spanish and Burmese to provide professional development opportunities for those with limited English proficiency. This grant is also funded by USDA FNS, and Indiana was awarded $520,770. The funding timeline runs from May 23rd, 2022 through June 30th, 2024. One requirement for this grant is to ensure that we give priority to school nutrition professionals serving in schools with at least 40% free and reduced population and or those in rural areas. So we will target those nutrition professionals first with that education. With this grant, IDOE will be developing more than 40 hours of immersive and engaging virtual training. This will be located on our virtual training platform Moodle, which is displayed here on this slide. Incentive subgrants will be awarded to individual directors and managers. Those that complete 40 hours of training within the first 6 months will be awarded $500. Frontline staff that complete 8 hours of training within the first 6 months will be awarded $100. Additionally, IDOE is budgeting $50,000 for subgrants to be awarded to schools in support of menu changes. Subgrants may be used for small equipment, cafeteria signage and displays, and or taste test events to support menu changes that meet the new meal pattern requirements and weekly dietary specifications. More information about the application process for these subgrants will be coming in the future. We have not advertised the availability of this subgrant opportunity yet. Course content is currently being developed and will cover topics ranging from equipment, menu planning, procurement, meal pattern, preparation, and service. Our Team Nutrition Grant Coordinator is Abby Butler. She is about to go on maternity leave as well. I think her due date is next week. She will be out through the end of March, but she is our Team Nutrition Grant Coordinator as well. Right. The final grant that we received in 2022 was a non-competitive farm to school state formula grant. The goal of this grant is to support state agency efforts to coordinate and provide technical assistance to build the capacity of participating institutions to procure and use local foods in program meals, as well as provide agricultural education opportunities for participating children. This grant was funded by the American Rescue Plan Act and USDA FNS is facilitating the funding. Again, this was a non-competitive and based on a formula. The amount Indiana was awarded was $1,179,948. The funding timeline is a little bit longer than the previous two grants. It covers the period from September 30th of 22 through September 30th of 26. Our plans with this grant is to hire a full-time contract employee through the Department of Education. This individual will help create and conduct trainings, develop resources, be the point of contact for farm to school questions, including procurement, implementation, and regulatory allowances, and provide other technical assistance as needed. Funds will also expand Indiana's Food Day program and other Indiana farm to school activities through the development of new marketing and promotional items, updated branding, a comprehensive toolkit, and more. With our partners, we plan to create and present a large-scale training event for school teachers and program staff, and as well as school food service staff. IDOE will be subgranting funds to the Indiana Department of Health, Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity, to enhance their farm to school initiatives. This includes building a more robust Harvest of the Month database for Indiana, maintaining a website to house farm to school curriculum and resources, and expanding a social media presence for the program. Additionally, this will allow for an operational budget to expand the Indiana Farm to School network and overall increase opportunities statewide. Finally, we will be subgranting funds to the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP. Our CACFP team will be using funds for developing farm to early childhood education, training, and resources. The goal is to help increase local purchasing, garden development, food safety, and nutrition education initiatives for the early childhood education programs across the state. Feel free to send any questions about this formula grant to Ali Kaido-Sipe, and her email is on this slide. Those were our 3 grant opportunities. While this is not grant funded, we do want to discuss one other project that we have, and that's our culinary skills for A+ school meals. The goal of this project is to provide hands-on and virtual training and resources to nutrition program sponsors in order to enhance attendees' cooking skills with the goal to increase scratch cooking efficiency and safety in the kitchen and job confidence. This is a project that we started a number of years ago, and it continues to be an impactful and helpful experience for our school cooks, nutrition managers, and food service directors. It is funded with state administrative expense funds from FNS. This iteration of the project started on January 31st, 23, and ends on November 2nd of 23. This year's plan includes 20 virtual cooking and nutrition lessons. The 1 hour and 15-minute classes include nutrition, food safety, and service information interjected with cooking demonstrations on the topic. For instance, the January 31st session was on egg cookery. It included how to make sheet pan eggs for quick scrambled eggs or egg patties, how to quantity cook hard-boiled eggs for service, and then various menu items to use the eggs, such as BLT rice bowl with eggs, breakfast tacos, and a croissant egg salad sandwich. Now that hopefully lunch is over for everybody. That didn't make anybody hungry. In this summer, there will be 6 weeks of 5-day hands-on workshops around Indiana. Each day of the week will focus on a theme, and participants will work in groups to put together menu items and learn about cooking methods, processes, and efficiency. They then get to eat their creations as part of their lunch meal. In the afternoon, they will sit and take class on various educational topics like nutrition education, farm to school, marketing and promotion, and many more topics. This is a free opportunity for our school nutrition staff, and we always encourage them to check it out. If you have any questions about the culinary schools for A+ meals, you can contact Ali Kaido-Sipe. I think that is all that I have. I did put my email address in there if anyone is interested in presenting on some sort of nutrition topic in March. We would definitely appreciate it. Or if you just have additional questions about it, let me know. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gretchen. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you so much. And we are going to share another slide here. We're going to talk about the Project Aware Goes to the Park grant opportunity that we have here at the state. Jenna was slotted to present, but she wasn't feeling super great today. So Lindsay, our director here at the Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity at IDOH, is going to present. Lindsay, go ahead.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great afternoon. My name is Lindsay Boza. I'm the Director of the Division of Nutrition and Physical Activity here at the Department of Health. Jenna Sperry is our Child Wellness Coordinator and has been working with Pete Fritz, our Healthy Communities Planner, on this project. We have an agreement with the Department of Education, who oversees their Project Aware funding that they receive from SAMHSA, focusing on mental health in schools. And so this project is a collaboration with the Department of Health, the Department of Education, where we want to look at kind of the intersection between physical activity and mental health for kids. So a lot of us know intrinsically that being physically active can really help our mental health. Being out in nature can help our mental health, both as adults and as children. So we came up with this idea to offer grant funding to parks or community organizations to look at 2 different funding streams, but for the idea of getting kids out in nature, out in parks, creating programming around that, so that we can help with that intersection of mental health and physical activity. So we recently put out a request for proposals for this opportunity. We have them, they are due by February 10th, as you see here on the slide. And the estimated grant start is June 1st with grant end at September 29th. We do hope to be able to provide hopefully up to 10 awards for this project. We have 2 funding streams as mentioned here. And I'll give a few examples, but one is youth programming up to $10,000. Some examples we gave in the request for applications include implementing various types of ecotherapy programs for children and youth, such as nature walks, adventure activities, or therapeutic gardening. Also creating a story trail, which would incorporate a story related to either mental health, student well-being, or mindfulness, and lead guided walks with groups of children. Some of you may be familiar with some story trails that are going on around the state. Or organizing a large one-time event aimed at bringing children and their families to a park or outdoor space to introduce them to the mental health benefits of being outdoors. And then lastly, and again, these are just examples, but implementing a nature backpack program in which children can check out a backpack to carry around a park with nature exploration contents and a mental health activity guide. So that is funding stream 1. Those are a few examples of some programming that an organization could apply for. And then funding stream 2 is for professional development. Some examples we gave of professional development would be providing youth mental health first aid training to youth-facing staff and partners, providing question, persuade, refer, QPR training to youth-facing staff and partners, or providing nature and forest therapy training to youth-facing staff members. So again, the application is geared towards parks, but we do know that some community organizations could apply as well in order to create some sort of programming around being outdoors and children, and really encouraging mental health and physical activity hand in hand. So that is a little overview of the request for applications. And I'm happy to take questions or take questions back to my team if you have any.
Thanks, Lindsay. Any questions, anyone?
There is one question in the chat. Is Project Aware goes to the park for K through 12?
That is a good question. I can try to check and see if we mention that in the application. I don't see us specifically mentioning that. I think that if there is an interest in looking at kind of preschool age or, you know, the younger ages 0 to 5, I think we could explore that. So I would go ahead and recommend sending an email To Jenna, I will put her contact information in the chat. And we will definitely get back to you if you have a project in mind that is not geared specifically K-12.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. Any other questions? Wonderful. We will move on then. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Gretchen, for sharing more about the updates for grants that we have at the state level. So we are going to move on to some legislative updates. So like I said, I spoke with Emily Weckert Bryant and Chelsea Winters last week, and they are providing some legislative updates for us. I tried to embed it, but it didn't work very well. So we're just going to go to the YouTube here. All right, so it's about 20 minutes long. It's just a recording. There are lots of resources that we mentioned that I can send out in the session email, but if you have any questions, we will take those at the end in the best way that we can answer them. Otherwise, we will also send along Chelsea and Emily's email addresses. So here we go. Is it working?
There's no sound.
I can't hear anything, Julia.
No sound. Okay, thanks, guys.
Why don't you pop the link?
Here. There's the link. Let me see if we can figure this out.
We're at the
right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have Emily Bryant and Chelsea Winters here today to talk about some legislative updates around nutrition, food access, and physical activity here in Indiana. So I will pop it over to you, Emily, to start with the nutrition, food access type of bills.
Thanks, Julia. So I'm with Feeding Indiana's Hungry. We're the State Association of Feeding America affiliate food banks. We have 11 members that collectively serve all 92 counties across the state. There's quite a few bills that were filed in this space, but I'll stick with mostly the ones that seem to be moving or have some option of getting a hearing. We're at the beginning of the session, more or less so far. All the bills have to be out of the chamber in which they were filed. So if it's a House bill in the House, Senate bill in the Senate, by mid to late February. So there's still plenty of time and it's still kind of early. One of the bills that we have been working on in the SNAP space is a bill to require FSSA to apply for a waiver and to create some other simplicities around the SNAP application process for seniors and folks with disabilities. For SNAP purposes, seniors are 60 and over. That bill is Senate Bill 334, filed by Senator Shelley Yoder from Bloomington. And it will have co-authors of Senator John Ford from Terre Haute and Senator Greg Walker from Bartholomew County. We expect that bill to have a hearing probably on February 6th. There's good support for this bill. I've been speaking with the AARP and the Indiana Agency or Indiana Association for the Area Agencies on Aging, folks who work with the aging community, as well as hopefully ARC of Indiana with the disabilities community. But what the bill does is right now, the state has gone to a 24-month recertification period for folks in that category. So you've got to be an elderly person for the purposes of SNAP, which is 60 plus, or someone with a disability, and everyone in the household has to meet that criteria. If that's the case, you only go through a recertification process every 24 months. What the bill would require is for FSSA to apply for a demonstration project or a waiver with USDA to move that to 36 months, to simplify the application, do as much data matching as possible to make the process as seamless as we can. And then it would actually, the way the bill is written, would codify that they do a Medicaid match. They already do that, but it's policy rather than a requirement. So we're hopeful that that bill will move. It is in the Senate Family and Children Committee, which is actually chaired by Senator Greg Walker, who's going on the bill as well. And so we're hopeful that we'll have some movement there. It's a good bill. Quite frankly, the action could be done administratively, and I've been as straightforward with FSSA as possible, saying I'm not trying to create work for you unnecessarily. Would love to work with you on these things. So there's that bill. There are two bills that are identical to create a Hunger-Free Campus Act. Senator Shelley Yoder has Senate Bill 51 in the Senate, which is grabbing co-authors left and right from particularly folks in college towns, and House Bill 1161 from Representative Earl Harris, who's been working on this issue for a number of years. Both of those bills go to the respective education committees, which is a different place than you would think about normally for hunger, but because it is relating to higher education, the program will be run through the Commission on Higher Ed. That's sort of where that will live. We're not sure yet if those will get hearings, but the universities that we've spoken to are supportive. The Commission on Higher Ed is supportive. We know from our work that a lot of universities around the state have a pantry on campus or work with their food bank or a local pantry for that access. What the bill would do would be to incentivize and then reward campuses that go through a number of steps, including creating a task force to look at this. That does involve having students on it, doing things like having a pantry, providing access to SNAP outreach, making sure that students are aware of what's going on, working with the national organization Swipe Out Hunger to create one of their programs on campus where you can use your meal card to provide assistance to others. It's a fantastic bill. It's really just incentivizing a lot of the work that the campuses are doing, and then hopefully providing them with a little bit of a grant on the back end to continue that work. So again, no hearing posted on either of those bills just yet, but we're working on that. I do know there is a food desert bill in the House Ag Committee from Representative Robin Shackelford. It hasn't been scheduled, and I haven't had a chance to talk to her about it yet. Typically, you know, when we see food desert bills from our perspective, there's very little, you can't legislate your way out of a food desert, right? There's a number of reasons that it's a food desert. It's low income and low access. What bills typically want to do is to incentivize groceries or other organizations to serve in those areas, which is always a good plan. I do know that Congressman Carson has had bills similar to that in the past at the federal level. He's from Indianapolis. You know, what we always want to make sure that we see and for folks to recognize is that our food banks and the pantries they work with are serving in those food deserts because it's low income and because it's low access. And so when these bills have moved in the past, we've worked with the author to make sure that they are cognizant of that, one, and two, that assistance, whatever that financial assistance would be available to those nonprofits who are serving in those areas, because that makes a significant difference. You know, I've always kind of said, you know, you can put a Whole Foods in a rural area in a food desert, but if no one can afford to shop there, it doesn't matter. And so we want to make sure that it's cognizantly looking at what is going to be available, what is currently available, and how we help all the way around, not just to provide something in a very specific location. So those are the bills that come to mind, and I would throw it out there to Julia and Chelsea to let me know if you've been hearing about anything that I didn't mention. There's a few other bills that are filed in the SNAP space that I don't really expect to move. Looking at helping DFR with processing applications. Senator Breaux has a bill that she seeks to completely eliminate the time limit, and that's attached to a Medicaid bill, which is well beyond what I want to think about on a regular basis. So those things are out there, but I don't expect there to be much momentum on them. I've also been working on some TANF bills, which are adjacent to SNAP. So we know that if an individual is eligible for TANF, they are very eligible for SNAP because TANF eligibility is much lower. The bills that are out there, House Bill 1160, and the Senate bill number is escaping me, but it is it was heard earlier this week. I want to say it's 256, but I could be wrong. 265.
265.
I was close. Okay. Both of those bills change and update the eligibility guidelines because we have not done that since 1988, as well as the benefit levels. So the Senate bill is a standalone bill that pertains only to TANF. The House bill has TANF included, has some workforce development included, and also creates essentially a pilot program for a college navigator, if you will, for students who are non-traditional students who are having difficulty accessing and finishing their degrees because of the fact that they have these other circumstances. And we testified in support of that because one of the things that that navigator will do is to connect them to those federal programs, be it housing, health insurance, SNAP, other benefits that will enable them to better complete their degree. So that's all that we have so far.
Yeah.
Unless there's something that I missed that you wanted to hear about.
No, and Emily makes a good point as I segue into some of the other bills. You know, if you look through the bill list from a public health or social determinants of health lens, you could list nearly any of the bills, right? And so while we're specifically going to talk about a lot of the bills related to food, nutrition, food access, and physical activity and built environment, I would encourage, you know, if you've never looked through the bill list or don't understand the process, that would be a really great place to start. I kind of joke, the Emily's and the Danielle Pattersons of the world can correct me, but you know, if you have no understanding of the bill process, to be honest, Schoolhouse Rock and How a Bill Becomes a Law is a great place to start. That song, although catchy and will be in your head all month, is a very simplistic understanding of how the process works. And if you go to the General Assembly website, which is iga.in.gov, two things to kind of look at when you're sort of learning the process. The bill deadline. So Emily mentioned we have a deadline in February for bills to cross over and move out of their original house. So looking at that deadline list, any bills that don't move according to that deadline essentially mean that they're dead, right? Now it's a long session, especially. There's always the chance that that language can be picked up in another bill or be put into a vehicle bill. So it's not over until we gavel out session. But more or less watching those deadlines and watching the, if you go to the iga.in.gov website, go to legislation and then bills, you can see the whole list on both the House side and the Senate side. I even think the new updated website looks like it's going to color code bills when they don't move on time. So that's nice. You can quickly review and see the ones that are grayed out reasonably are dead at this point, or as we move to each session deadline. And so those are a couple just basic recommendations for someone who's maybe new to the policy space and wants to learn kind of, what we're talking about in all of these Senate bills. You can see the digest, which is just like the quick overview that Emily kind of gave, and you can read the entire bill. You can see the authors. I mean, you can see every single action on any individual bill. So you can spend as much time or as little time as you want kind of reviewing and getting to know that schedule. At a high level, a couple other bills I wanted to just call attention to. Obviously, Senate Bill 4, the Public Health Commission, is one that we're all watching. Out of the Governor's Public Health Commission recommendations, the amount proposed to fund public health, even in the original bill filing, is much lower than what came out of that commission. And so we don't anticipate meeting the commission recommendations. In fact, it'll probably be even lower than what was originally filed in the bill once it gets through the process, or if it gets through the process, right? But that's obviously an important one to watch when you're looking at the whole public health infrastructure in the state. There are a couple of bills. I know it's not necessarily specific to SNAP, but there are several bills on like family medical leave and maternal health, as well as tobacco. I won't go into specifics in the bill numbers, but again, if you go to that website, go to legislation and bills, you are welcome to kind of read through it. On the physical activity built environment side, a couple things to watch. So Senate Bill 200 is a local street safety matching grant program. And so it's a matching program for IDOH to allow matching dollars for both bike and ped infrastructure to local communities, which is obviously important on that built environment physical activity portion. There are two vulnerable road user bills that have been filed. One looks like it's been withdrawn. One is related to actually removing a license for someone who's been in a crash with a vulnerable road user, and it puts some definition around that. So that'll be one we want to watch just from a bike ped perspective and vulnerable road users. House Bill 1049 has some language around bicycle traffic control signals, so updating around some color requirements, as well as turning left on a one-way if you're a bicycle or a cyclist. So that's one we're going to want to watch and just kind of see what happens. There's also, I don't know, Emily, if this is one that you're watching, but House Bill 1132 is a land use task force. And it sets up a task force, but that task force specifically will look at recommendations in areas where food insecurity exists, as well as where there's high areas of like economic development and growth. So again, maybe not specifically related to all the things we're interested in, but when you look at sort of how land is used and allocated, it's certainly something we're going to want to watch. So
yeah, that would actually.
Again, go ahead.
Sorry, I talked to Representative Culp about that bill.
Yeah.
He's a new representative from up 65, I want to say in the Rensselaer-ish area.
Yeah.
And he's a longtime advocate for Indiana Farm Bureau. So land use is very important to him. What he's looking at is the production side to make sure that we have enough production for that. But he also recognizes an Indiana Farm Bureau has made a very solid position of being aware of food deserts, what that looks like in rural areas and how we address it. So yeah, I think it's definitely a very good thing.
And I apologize. I forgot to introduce myself to those of who I don't know on the call. So I'm Chelsea Winters. I work for the Y, but I provide staff support to the Top 10 Coalition. So really I'm coming to you today from the policy work team of Top 10, who works a lot on these issues at the state level, but has a sort of a focus on Marion County and Central Indiana as well. So, and then the other thing I'll just mention, as you're sort of getting used to it, I don't think it's ever too late to reach out to representatives, whether that's at the state level or if you're thinking really sort of locally at a municipality level, that would be your city council or town managers. The more that we as sort of public health advocates can build relationships and sort of get to know elected officials and help them to understand the science and the evidence base behind some of these policy strategies, I think the better off we are in sort of creating some of the upstream change I think we all want to see in Indiana when it comes to helping the health of Hoosiers. So if you're not sure where to start, if you're confused, if it feels overwhelming, reaching out even just as a personal advocate, right? Several people on the call probably work for organizations that don't allow advocacy, but there's no harm in reaching out as an individual and starting with just the elected officials for your district or your city council district, whichever jurisdiction you feel comfortable with. Reaching out, letting them know who you are. During session, it might be a little harder to get a meeting than it is outside of session, but it's never too late to sort of reach out, build a relationship. As we get closer to deadlines this session, you'll see organizations like Emily's, like Top 10, some of the other policy and advocacy organizations in the state will start to send out action alerts. Those really do matter, right? And taking those action alerts, taking it and drafting a quick email or calling the switchboard and getting a message into staffers for your representatives do make a difference. And so sometimes it feels like a small step and it's just, will they really listen? Well, if they get 20 calls in a day about one particular issue, then that does alert their attention. So just a couple of quick actionable things for folks who maybe aren't embedded in this space, but are looking to get more involved in policy.
Thanks, Chelsea. Emily, do you have anything else to add on that with tips and how people can best advocate for what they're working on or in their communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So to Chelsea's point, you can go to the General Assembly's website. You can look at things. You can also go to the Who is My Legislator tool that if you type in your address, it will tell you who your state senator and your state representative are. At the state level, you will have one of each that you elect for the district that you live. That's state level. It's not local or federal, but it'll also, from that website, you'll be able to connect to reach out to them and tell them what you would like to see or what you would like to have heard. I can tell you from an update standpoint, we have an Indiana Hunger Coalition that is where our advocacy updates will be coming from. It's feedingindianashungry.org is our website, and then / Indiana Hunger Coalition / is where you can get to that, or you can tool around on our page to find that. I promise when things start getting hearings, we will be definitely driving folks to contact the members of the committee, or even if you're interested in those college students hunger and homelessness bills, contact the legislators on the House and Senate Education Committees, and you can find those on the website as well. We activate on federal issues as well, so I know we're talking about state advocacy. We will have a farm bill this year, and so we have a member on both the House and Senate Agriculture Committees. Senator Braun sits on the Senate committee, and Representative Baird is on the House committee. We will be engaging them to hopefully schedule an in-state listening session on the nutrition title in the next few months to make sure that they're aware of what that all entails. We've been working with their staff. I've been working closely with the Indiana Farm Bureau on the Farm Bill Task Force to make sure that we're all kind of coming in on the same page there. But that's something that we do every 5 years, and that includes SNAP and TFAP, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and some other programs, which is a good place to sort of hop in at a federal level. Again, updates will come from that Indiana Hunger Coalition as well. The last thing I would say is that from a state legislative perspective, they're in session Monday through Thursday. They have to adjourn by April 29th. So this is a long session. They're working on a budget. But they don't come to Indy on Fridays. And so Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, there are often local events hosted by your Chamber of Commerce, League of Women Voters, something like that. Check your local paper or listen to your local radio station, because those will be advertised as a good opportunity to come and meet your legislators and ask them the questions that you have about what they're doing.
And I'll just mention another statewide resource. Obviously, I mentioned Top 10 really works locally in Indianapolis. We do have a policy work team, and obviously we track both state and federal issues. If there are partners interested in joining us, the best email is top10, so it's the number 10 at indymca.org. But also IPHA, so the Indiana Public Health Association, is a great resource. They have a policy work team that works at the state level. They're sort of our local professional body for public health. And so they would be a great resource to reach out to. Sign up for their listservs. Like Emily mentioned, several of these organizations send out action alerts as we get later in session. So even just signing up for their listservs and their newsletters will help you sort of stay in the loop as important bills progress, and as we might need to kind of use our public health advocacy muscle to kind of nudge them forward. So that would be another recommendation, is just to kind of identify some of those resources and sign up for their newsletters.
Those are great recommendations, and I will link everything in the chat as we're going through this, and we'll send out all of the tools in the meeting minutes after our quarterly meeting. And I will say too, we had the mayor of Crawfordsville come in for a SNAC dialogue session at the end of last year, and he gave some great tips on how to advocate locally and how to approach a local legislator. So I will link that as well. So thank you all so much for your time, and if anyone has any questions, we will send them along, and we will share all the action alerts on our SNAC socials, so everyone just be on the lookout for that. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us with the technical difficulties. And I wasn't able to listen along with you all because of that. So what I said about all the information being sent out, I tried to put it in the chat. I tried to read lips to see when they were talking about what, but I linked some things in the chat, and then we'll send a lot of the things that they said out with the post-session email as well. But any questions or anything you all want to mention before we move on to last announcements and reminders? All righty. We just have some last announcements and reminders here. We still have our SNAC member profiles. They are just on our website. So if you are joining us and would like to share more information about what you do with your organization and just your contact information, we have a whole page that breaks everything out by region of the state, and we can put your information there so people can come read about what you do, and we can promote collaboration that way. We have our SNAC newsletter that'll be coming out in the next couple of days for February. And if you have anything to add to that, or any event ever that you would like to share, please email info@indianasnac.com. You can also forward it along to me. And like I said, we are going to be doing webinars this year, so be on the lookout for Eventbrites to come up to sign up for those in the coming months. And our next quarterly meeting is May 3rd from 1 to 2:30 via Teams. If you all have any ideas of speakers, or you would like to come speak on behalf of your organization, please let me know and we can get you added to the agenda. Are there any last questions, concerns, comments that anyone would like to share with the group? Well, thank you all so much. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, and we'll be in touch. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Yes, I'll send the recording out.